Shalom, Yasharala. This your brother Dawada coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for y'all. I can't push this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions. So like to feed and edify the elect. All right. Now I want to get into this here quick little news article dealing with, the same old tactics that Esau has been doing since, Esau basically got into power, around the Renaissance era. That's what that's talking about, the rebirth, basically bringing back the so-called white man. All right. And in that process of so let's go back a little bit. All right. So to break down some history, this is, to feed and edify the elect, and, some of the elect might not know a lot of this information or need things to, or how do I say, tools for their arsenal or, weapons for their arsenal to come back. So, we're going to go break down a little bit of this here history, but nevertheless, you had a time frame, well, I know the time frame is being around like 125 AD, but, Apostle Tahar, I hadn't gone too far into this history, but nevertheless, he says around, the year 95 AD, with the god Nerva or around that time. But nevertheless, that was the point in time where Jake basically came into power over in Europe, in those areas, and, this is where, the scripture says, basically, how does Christians say, the Lord's going to come back and he's going to cast Satan into prison and, or and all kind of bullshit like that. Satan, what that was talking about was the so-called white man. All right. He was ruling and dominating at that point in time. All right. In Rome. And then, he wound up so-called going into the pits, he wound up falling out of power for a moment, and that's when we started ruling over there in, in those areas, from the Roman Empire all the way over to what they would, later call the so-called, Europe, how do you say, King James united the United Kingdom, but nevertheless, those places over in Europe, So this is in history where you hear about, in your regular school history, you hear about a time frame called the Dark Ages. All right. Now, the Dark Ages, they would tell you in school, the Dark Ages wasn't, it's not referring to the, dark skinned people. No, this was a time where there was no knowledge and no information, things like that. But nevertheless, that's kind of true to a certain extent, that's true from their perspective. And what we as a people, all right, being Israelites, like the scriptures say, come out of her, my people. All right. And, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. That's being a reference to being joined to these here people, or flee out of the midst of Babylon. That's not talking about, physically relocating somewhere else. That's more or less talking about, mentally and spiritually separate yourself from this place. All right. So for a prime example, you have to think in a certain mindset like this. All right. When you watch TV commercials and stuff like that, for the example, real life example, I'm not from Florida, I'm from, Atlanta, Georgia. So when I first moved to Florida, me being a so-called American, my American mind state, a Babylonian, right? Sipping on that Babylonian juice, I came down here, seen the commercials, talked to the people that was around here, for the first time, we being around so-called white people, and in this process, I didn't know that, there was a difference. I thought we was all equal and everything was all the same, but nevertheless, I would see commercials about, whenever you go out and hear, the teachers and stuff like that talk about whenever you go out in the sun, blah, 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 for your safety stuff, make sure you have your sunscreen, make sure you have your sunscreen, or things in school talking about, oh, make sure you get checked for lice, and I'm like, okay, well, whatever, whatnot, and I go home, tell my mom, yo, man, I need to, go get checked for lice. My mom look at me funny, like, boy, you ain't gonna get no lice, Some of these things, when they're speaking from the perspective, and they know this, they speaking from the perspective from them to them. All right. Just like the great confusion in the scriptures, the scriptures was spoken from us for us. All right. It's not, to everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like a company, putting out a memo to the employees of the company. Everybody got to wear reflective shirts. That ain't meaning everybody in the whole world got to wear reflective shirts. If you want to have your employment there and you are employed there, then that's talking to you, but nevertheless, I had to, as I grew older and people was looking at me funny talking about, bro, what you need sunscreen for? What you trying to get checked for lice? And I quickly realized like, oh shit, they ain't talking to me when they talking about that. All right. So a lot of these things, it's not necessarily when they speak, they're not talking from that perspective. So going back to the Dark Ages, there was no information. It was dark, as far as how they say the enlightened ones, the Illuminati, there's knowledge flourishing. That's more or less the, how do you say, the, the context of what they was trying to, what they're speaking in. So nevertheless, but this time was the time, the scriptures talk about, Satan was going to be cast into that pit for 1,000 years, So you go back in time from, like the elder apostles say around the year 95 AD, to about, what is that? 13, no, was it the late 1300s? Maybe it was, yeah, I think it might have been the late 1300s or, might have been the late 1400s, but nevertheless, there goes your 1,000 years right there. All right. From basically the years, 95 to the year, 1,300 something. You see what I'm saying? That's 1,000 years, and during this point in time, basically all the way up into, what was that? I think King James was like the last so-called black king, in Europe. All right. And that was in, we have the 1611 King James Bible. All right. And I believe he died not so long after that, so in the 1600s, you see what I'm saying? Then you go back into our history about the 1855, 1856. There was like still a sitting black princess in Hawaii. All right. And I believe over in Russia as well, they were actually so-called, black people over there ruling at that same period of time when so-called slavery ended in America at like 1855 in the same year, But nevertheless, this was that time frame that the scriptures were speaking about, the dark ages. Now, when they came out of that dark ages, like I said, around the time of Columbus, all right, 1492, a little bit before that time, because that's when they started coming into power. This is when they came back up out of their little pits and things like that. They came up out of that so-called pit or grave, And nevertheless, when they came up out of their pit, this is when they started to conquer. So they called this time frame from their perspective again, all right, the Renaissance era or the rebirth. All right. This is them being reborn again because they was so-called dead and desolate, you see? So now they coming back, you know what I'm saying, in their rebirth period, and they started to so-called whitewash everything and cover up every damn thing. All right. And so that's what this here lesson is going to get into. We're going to kind of touch a little further on. We always read that scripture in Job chapter 9, verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, who and where is he? All right. Now, this is going to get directly into all of that. All right. And what he's, doing, what he did in his past, and then also what he's currently doing in his time frame. All right. And which, if Esau had his way and his enterprise was to be completed, this is further going into transhumanism. All of these things is geared towards you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All of this money he's spending, he's doing this shit to, Lord willing, we'll touch on that Psalms 83 your ass one more time. He want to do the final extermination process on you. All right. He want to totally eliminate you, and he's willing to risk killing everybody else around you just to get to your ass, even his own people, because he know that, we all mixed up nowadays, and, this and that. So that's going further into this so-called RFID chip and the microchip, or the mark of the beast, and this new system of cyborgs that he's trying to have running around here so he can read these people's minds. And like they got a vaccine for that shit where they have a CAT scan to see so-called religious people. All right. And they got a damn vaccine for that shit too. But nevertheless, not going too far off topic, that's what he's trying to do, this final extermination. But a part of this is, like I believe there's a saying that whoever holds the keys to history can write the future, And so that's almost like the saying, like, you got to know where you came from to know where you're going. All right. Well, nobody can know where nobody's going as a whole if history has been hijacked and then they recreate some new shit, Not going too far off subject, but still touching on this subject. I was looking into some shit, how they trying to go into make like space colonies type of shit, right? And go out into like other planets and shit, right? That's what they disguising it as. But nevertheless, it's a system where they created a new government in space. All right. But this government is a digital place. All right. It's in the satellites. All right. But the people going to be here on Earth. But nevertheless, what they want to do is start uploading memories and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But in their process, in their plan, they was talking about creating a new history, recreating history and starting fresh, so you don't know about all the wars and all the crazy shit that then popped off on the planet. That's how they was giving it, to create a peaceful future. But really what they trying to do is cover up all of Esau's goddamn wickedness and his atrocities, because he didn't basically subjugate the whole planet Earth. And as you see, he trying to go out into space to do all this other wickedness. But nevertheless, we're going to jump into this here, story, and you'll see, this guy don't ever stop, man. He's trying to eradicate you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And there's a reason why. He's not spending all this money doing this shit to the Chinese, the Arabs. You know, he bombing the shit out of them, but he ain't doing this shit to them. You know, you got to wonder who you are. What's your history? Why are they going to so far lengths to cover up the history and blot out some fucking niggas and spicks and coons and shit like that's history, who was swinging on trees who was savages and shit before these so-called white people found you? Why they spending so much money to cover up your history when you ain't shit, really? You know what I'm saying? You was just some baboon savages swinging across some trees with no history before that. You got to think about that shit. You know what I'm saying? Why they doing this? All right. It's because you the so-called children, not the so-called children. You are the children of the Lord, the children of Israel. All right. And they don't want you to understand that. All right. So we're going to get into this here lesson, or this here article and this here lesson. But, you know, going into pretty much more of this here, wickedness and covering up. All right. This is, it says explain its censorship. Facebook removes Guardian writer's video on British colonial crimes. It says, the Guardian columnist, now as you look at this here picture here, who is this? Jake, you know what I'm saying? It says Guardian columnist George Monbiot is the latest to decry Facebook's increased censorship after a video he made on the crimes of European colonists was taken down by the tech giant. All right. And so, you know, I'm not going to branch off too far on that, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, Lord want to put this here video up, dealing with some more of this, you know, this other takeover, what they doing with the damn, basically all the internet and shit like that. But nevertheless, with your data and all that, with Facebook and all these other big ass companies, Google and all that shit. But nevertheless, it says the Guardian's columnist George Monbiot is the latest to cry Facebook increased censorship after a video he made on the crimes of European colonists was taken down by the tech giant. And so, you know, like I said, not going too far off, but when you look at what we, the men of the Lord are doing, you know, like Obadiah, I believe it's 1:6 says, how are the things that Esau sought out and searched up, you know, we going into these here articles, this research, this history, and all these different things, these books of Esau's wickedness and things like that, you know, and we go out and we expose it in these videos, you know. But nevertheless, what is Esau doing? You know, that's what he's doing today. He's trying to stop us and censor us. All right. And other people that's doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? Adding more fuel to the flame, you know what I'm saying? Giving us more ammo to sit here and turn on these guys, you know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, he's trying to shut all them down, you know, take them all out, you know, silence them all, you know. But it says Facebook's increased censorship after a video he made on crimes of European colonialism was taken down. And what is European colonialism? All right. Modern day, they call it globalism, global domination. All right. Having the fatness of the earth, which was one of Esau's blessings. All right. It says, in his tweet following the removal of the video, Monbiot wrote, here's our video about airbrushing of colonial history that Facebook has gone and airbrushed. All right. So basically, you know, instead of saying airbrush, is whitewashed. All right. They don't really want to come out and say it because, you know what I'm saying? It's probably a damn Edomite. It definitely is an Edomite writing this. Probably is an Edomite, you know, writing this here article, you know, and they probably don't want to sit there and put their own people out on blast because it come to a certain point when you add up all this bullshit that's going on around the planet and you look at these people like, damn, why all you motherfuckers that's into some shit all look alike? You know what I'm saying? How they say, well, when we looking at the crime statistics, it seems like everybody in jail is so-called black people. So it only lead me to one conclusion. Y'all motherfuckers is the criminals, you know, and we ain't going off on topic of how fucked up that is. But nevertheless, you know, just using it as an analogy, you know, a lot of these so-called Edomites is looking around and seeing everybody that's causing these atrocities look like them. All right. It says the video produced by Double Down News shows Monbiot talking to the camera, and his intercut was often gruesome film clips as he goes through colonial history, detailing atrocities committed by the Europeans. All right. Now, instead of censoring Homeboy's video, all right, for some gruesome images, all right, I ain't gonna really go too far off topic of the gruesome shit you can see on the internet all day. You know, not to mention, you know, you can, man, on Twitter, man, they got people, you know, I don't even really use that shit, so I don't really know exactly what's all on there. But nevertheless, you know, people will send you text messages with links to that shit. But they got videos of people getting put to death in the most gruesome ways, beheaded and all kind of shit like that floating around Twitter. You know, and they got those little websites and shit like that with all the gore on there. You know, they got all kind of just crazy, like, nasty shit going on. Not to even mention the shit they got on the porno. You know what I'm saying? The shit that them niggas is into. You know what I'm saying? They got all kind of, like, foul shit on the internet that you don't need no kind of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no type of shit to get to. Like any and everybody with a computer access can get to this shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just all fucked up. But nevertheless, they tripping over some historic facts that's gruesome as fuck, and they trying to take that shit down, you know? But not to mention on top of that, and be like, yo, wait a minute. I'm just reiterating or reporting on the shit that y'all niggas did. If this shit's so gruesome and so horrible and so, how do you say, horrific and, what's the word I'm trying to say? If it's so, not gruesome, but, if it's so bad, right? If it's so, demoralizing and so demeaning, why don't you motherfuckers take blame for the shit that you did, you know? Why don't you just be like, you know what, we fucked up. We shouldn't have did no shit like that. Maybe we shouldn't be in control because this is the type of shit we do when we are in control. But no, they sit there and be like, nah, you can't put these videos up because you, what? Hey, your shit being exposed now, all right? It says, that's not it. It says, Mambot video initially looked at the crimes of the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus, namely his massacre and torture of natives on Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti and Dominican Republic in the late 15th century. All right, and that damn Devil's Day just goddamn passed by, you know, and these people still, you know what I'm saying, celebrate that. That's a whole nother topic, you know what I'm saying? They celebrate Columbus Day in the late 1500s, all right, 1400s, before so-called black people came on this goddamn shores of America, right? But they tell us to forget about slavery because it happened so long ago, but they still celebrate, or damn near still celebrate, Columbus Day. All right, this might be the first time they just be like, you know what, we ain't doing that shit no more. All right, the hypocrisy of this damn devil. All right, tell you to forget about your atrocities, but remember, the man has put more oppression on our brethren. Nevertheless, it says the video also covers the British manufactured famine, which led to an estimated at least 12 million deaths in India. All right, starving out people and creating food shortages and shit like that, cutting off trade routes, man. So, and now in modern days, GMO foods and feeding everybody goddamn plastic. That's a whole nother topic, man. This shit is running rampant around here nowadays. It says Mambot states that the Indians were driven into work camps where inmates received the same rations as inmates in Nazi concentration camps. All right, bushwalled, and where there was a 94% death rate per year. So, shit, when you really look at modern day today here in America, what's so different besides the fact that the damn gates is so far that you don't realize you're in a prison. All right, but you got the same treatment here. Instead of you being gassed in a small chamber, you constantly being, you know, pumped with all kind of shit from chemtrails and the shit you eat and the water you drink, man. Not to mention all the demonic shit they blaring at you with the TV and all this extra shit, you know. It says the journalist known for his environmentalist goes on to details Britain's most recent crimes of colonialism, focusing on the torture and internment and concentration camps in Kenya, Kikuyu people. The Guardian writers detailed the gruesome torture methods, including castration used by the British against the Kenyans, adding that the papers documented the crimes were burned. All right, so here's another proof of the spirit bear witness with, you know, how we say the spirit bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. Why? Because of the things that they did aforetimes, and you can read about their so-called mannerism back then in the scriptures, and we can look at our mannerism today and the things that we do today. It's the same shit, you know, because we the same people. We don't, like they say, the apple don't fall far from the tree. Same with these Edomites, man. They've been doing the same shit from back in the day. They're doing the same shit today. All right, that's another little check mark on who the so-called, or who the Edomites, according to the Bible, are, the so-called white man. He ain't changed a day in his life, you know. It says adding that the papers of the papers documenting the crimes will burn, you know, but they, you know, all the evidence of what they did, they try to do what? Whitewash it or erase it from history. All right. It says in 2012, Mau Mau represented in the anti-colonist military force, predominantly made up of Kikuyu, sued the UK. The British government, in a rare legal victory for former subjects of the British Empire, accepted that prisoners had suffered torture and ill treatment at the hands of the colonial administration. You know what I'm saying? They want to put it off on, how do I say it, compartmentalized, you know what I'm saying, section of their people, when really it's just they damn people. They still doing the same shit to this day, man. What do you think they over there? Hey, man, we ain't gonna go too far off of how they supporting these Amalekites over in Israel for doing the same shit over to the Gazan people or the Palestinian people, you know, or what they doing in the Middle East and like Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq, you know what I'm saying, or what they doing over here in America, you know, what they were doing over there in Puerto Rico, all right, in Haiti, all right. It says Mambot decries that the atrocities of colonialism have been completely airbrushed from our national consciousness. Now let me translate this. All right, it says, Mambot decries that the atrocities of the so-called white man, which is known in the Bible as Esau Edom, have been completely whitewashed or erased or changed up, covered up, masked up from our national consciousness, meaning you ain't gonna ever remember this shit. So you just forget about it. That's why you have no problem walking hand in hand, and our people like motherfucking Kanye West want to be all hugged up with Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? All they got to do is sweet talk your ass. You know, they say a gift destroys the heart, you know, and his, how to say, his words were smoother than butter, you know, but war was in his mouth, or war was in his tongue. It says, the video comes amid fierce debate over British colonies, Britain's colonial legacy, with many talking up the benefits of the empire, while others, like Mambot, are arguing that Britain needs to come to terms with its colonial era crimes. And that's just the sentiment that all the so-called white people, you know, they want to sit over here and, how do they say it in the last thing? They want to be, how do I say, so-called proud over their, it says the video comes amid fierce debate over Britain's colonial legacy. All right, more or less, the so-called white man's legacy. These so-called white people here in America like to talk about how proud they are that their fathers fought and died for this land, for the stars and the stripes. Don't you disrespect the flag, and this isn't, my people fought and died for this. Yeah, you was mass murdering people and all the atrocities you did to steal this shit. You know what I'm saying? If you ran up on somebody in a damn big body Benz, you know what I'm saying, and took his ass out the car, full Grand Theft Auto his ass, and blew his brains out, you know, all over the seats of the car, you know what I'm saying, and took his shit, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you driving the car, it's your car now, but what'd you do to get it? You didn't go and buy that car legally, lawfully. Nah, you stole it. All right? Number, just jumping some scriptures real quick. You know what I'm saying? To touch on this, these atrocities real fast. Let me, I'm gonna come back to that. Let me start with Psalms 83. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 80, Psalms 83 and 1. It says, a psalm of Asaph, keep not thou silence, O Yahweh, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Most High. For lo, thy enemies, all right, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. All right, and who hates the Most High more than anybody on the planet Earth? All right, who's the one pushing all the damn false ass propaganda on the planet Earth, like how do you say, population, how do they say, overpopulated? Basically the earth is overpopulated, you know, or we have a food shortage, or you know, people was created, you know, with faults and shit like that, so now they got to go have these medical procedures to become perfect, you know what I'm saying? Or the plants was created with imperfections, and now we got to make them perfect. Everything was created with an imperfection, now we got to make it perfect. All right, so these are the people, all right, and all the laws, statutes, and commandments that the Most High set forth, these people hate those, and they change them, and they rip them all up and turn them upside down. So, you know what I'm saying? Who else is doing this, pushing this on the forefront of the planet Earth? It's the so-called white man, who's known in the Bible as Esau Edom. All right? It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thy hidden ones. Like I said, this whole thing is geared towards you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right? This is why you don't have no seat in UN or nothing like that. It says they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thy hidden ones. What you think they over there doing ultimately? All right, they hide it and guise it under certain things, but like I said, these people are hell bent on getting rid of you people. We're gonna read that here, but nevertheless, that's what they hell bent on doing, and they willing to sacrifice the whole damn planet Earth to get rid of your ass. All right, it says, verse 4, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. And that's more or less twofold. You know, the first fold, well, basically, let us come and exterminate them, annihilate them, you know, mass genocide till there ain't no more left. You know what I'm saying? But if we can't get that, we'll at least go for, you know, exterminate as many of them as we can. But the ones that's left over, we'll try to at least brainwash their ass so they'll start assimilating and thinking that they somebody else than who they are, you know? There people start walking around with blonde mohawks and shit like that, thinking with skinny jeans on, thinking they hand in hand with the so-called white man. No, bro, we're all equal. We're all the same. We're all Americans. We all bleed red blood, man. Like, yeah, you and the rats bleed the same red fucking blood, but y'all ain't the same now, are y'all? You know what I'm saying? You can have an American rat from the same county, city, in the same house you live in, but y'all ain't the same now, is it? Right. You wouldn't let a rat eat off of your plate while you eating off of it. You know what I'm saying? What kind of sense that shit make? But it says, they have, verse 4, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. All right, mass genocide, extermination. But if we can't get that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. Maybe no more remembrance to whom? Well, first and foremost, shit, we reading about Israel right here in this passage. So if we was gonna be reading this, it's gonna always be in remembrance. Like, well, wait, who the fuck is that? It's not that we gonna forget that name Israel. They're gonna change the name like they changed the name of the Lord. We was gonna forget it like that, or the fact that there wasn't gonna be people calling themselves Israelis. All right, but never, or people so-called call themselves like Israel. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that the real Israelites wouldn't remember who they are. They wouldn't be calling themselves Israelites. That's why our people call ourselves so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. This is why we so-called fight to not learn who we are. This is what our big battle is, right? With the men of the Lord. We out here fishing for the elect. All right, we have to fish them and clean these fish up. You know what I'm saying? Because they Babylonians right now. You know what I'm saying? But when they come in, you know what I'm saying? Ezekiel 37, they the valley of dry bones. When you first find them, that's that dusty bag of bones, that skeleton and shit with the dust buried in the desert. Up under the Sahara Desert, that's them, the elect. But once they get this here word, you know what? They wake up, and the Most High put that spirit back on them. All right. But what Esau want to do? What? Erase that. All right. Verse 5. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. All right. The tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, the Moabites and Hagarenes, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, inhabitants of Tyre, Ashur is also with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. That's pretty much going into, the Africans, in the so-called white man, and then when they say Amalek, well, and they also say Moab and Ammon, that's Chinese and the so-called Chinese and the so-called Japanese, but Amalek is talking about those so-called Israelis over there in Israel. All right. Those are the ones who finance the so-called slave trade, and still dominating over us. But nevertheless, they said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. All right. The members may be no more. So if they can't kill us all off, they want to also make the remembrance of us to cease. All right. So we're going to stick in the book of Psalms. Slovakia. What's I read? Oh, never mind. Yeah, this is what I wanted to read right here. So nevertheless, I might read this all the way. I'm gonna read this all the way through. This is Psalms 58. All right. This says, to the chief musician Asaleth, Machiman of David, Salakia on that pronunciation. Do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do you judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? All right. Let me touch on something real quick. Lord willing, you know what I'm saying? We can go into a couple of these here scriptures, and not get cut off. But all ye congregations, what was I looking for? Right here, Isaiah 14 and 13, it says, verse 12, how art thou, verse 12, Isaiah 14 and 12, it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weakest the nations? All right, Lucifer meaning the enlightened one. All right, more or less talking about basically the Rothschilds on down. Those are the ones holding all the information with every damn thing and controlling every damn thing. All right, this ain't talking about the spiritual demon Satan or nothing like that. This is actually talking about people that's in control right now. But nevertheless, it says, verse 13, for thou hast said in thy heart, all right, so-called white man, ultimately starting with their rulers, the elites on down. All right, this is what they say in their heart. This is what they dwell on. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. All right. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. All right. Not only talking about having his dominion, talking about, let me read to verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Right. Not only talking about he going to be in stature and in power like the Most High. You know what I'm saying? The world's going to look at and marvel at him as God, which the world is doing today. But nevertheless, he was going to also exalt his actual throne, or his how do you say, his international space stations and things like that up in the heavens. But nevertheless, He said, I will sit also on the mount of I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Sides of the north, basically, is his throne over here in North America, i.e., the United States. But the mount of the congregation is talking about the children of Israel. All right. So homeboy over here trying to sit on top of the children of Israel, having rulership and dominate over top of us. All right. You know how the scriptures say, through thy seed, speaking to Abraham, all the nations would be blessed. All right. It says, Psalms 58:1, it says, do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do you judge uprightly, O you sons of men? All right. Yeah, I'm gonna read this first. But nevertheless, keep in mind Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. But nevertheless, he's trying to sit there and put his hand on the scriptures as if he the Lord's people and everything like that. And he trying to be the righteous, so-called righteous congregation. But it's saying, do you judge uprightly? Are you fair? No, you're not. You judging it. Let me read verse 2. Yea, in heart ye work wickedness. Ye weigh the violence in your hand. Ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. All right. So homeboy sitting up on top, you know what I'm saying, as if he righteous, saving face. Oh, I'm the the moral authority of the planet Earth. But what? Looking at your fruits, man, you ain't got nothing but deadly fruits, bro. All you do is rape, rob, and murder. It says the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. That was the moral point I wanted to get in this whole scripture. But nevertheless, it says the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And what is one great example of that? When they first being born, not first being born, but when they first start speaking, talking about, oh, I'm white, like you pure, or, and then taking on that whole so-called white culture that, your parents came over here and, you the so-called Americans or whatever, the little bullshit story that these people try to tell you about over here. We got the pride of American, the red, white, and blue. My fathers fought and died for this land. But really, you was over here rape, robbing, and murdering. That's the bullshit lies that you over here speaking from your youth. You grew up learning about your so-called white history, but all that shit is lies. It's all atrocities and things. Like the article we was reading. You go around rewriting history and whitewashing every damn thing. All right. You cover up every damn thing and put everything in your likeness. All right. Like the scriptures say, let me grab that so I don't butcher it up. What is that? Daniel, I think it's 9 and 12. Yeah, this is Daniel chapter 9, verse 12. It says, he has confirmed his word, which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven have not been done as has been done in Jerusalem. All right, so that's talking about your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, ain't no atrocities has been worse than what's been done to you. But yet they want you to sit here and remember the Holocaust. You can't talk about the Holocaust because so-called 6 million Jews was burned in some ovens and gassed up and shit like that, which we ain't gonna touch on that either. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? What about the 99 million of the so-called Negroes that died in the Middle Passage? All right, what about, 12 million of them that made it over here into the United States alone? What was that? 20-something million of them that made it into Brazil and all the generations that was born afterwards, the lynching and all that extra shit, the 400 plus years of atrocities that's been going on, lynching it. Well, it ain't been lynching for 400 years, but all those atrocities, slavery and all these different things for so long, ain't nothing that's been done has been done this worse, But it says, that's all I wanted to grab in there. Let me go back. It says, the wicked are estranged from Psalms 58:3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So they say, everybody was taken into slavery and this and that and so on and so forth. Nah, man, ain't nothing that's been done has been done worse as, it's nothing been done worse as it's been done to us, man. And all this bullshit you're talking about, everybody did this and that, and y'all so scot-free and so righteous and all this and that. It's all bullshit, and you continue to this day to try to whitewash things. Not to mention, we could do a whole lesson on how you try to whitewash the men of the Lord, Yahushua himself, the Most High. You had to try to whitewash all of that, But, that's a whole different topic for another day, but just in regular things, You go through the planet Earth shooting the noses off of so-called Negroid featured statues and things like that and changing up our history, trying to delete our history, not teaching about slavery in schools no more, not teaching about the atrocities the so-called white man did, teaching false stories about Columbus and how do you say Thanksgiving, but not teaching the real atrocities, talking about Andrew Jackson as a hero when he was the dude that implemented the Indian Removal Act, which led to the Trail of Tears, and the atrocities that was done there, Nevertheless, it says their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like a deaf adder that stoppeth her ears. All right. You know, the poison is like the poison of a serpent, man. You know what I'm saying? You might get bit by a snake, you know what I'm saying? But it might take a little bit for your ass to die, but you surely gonna be fucked up from that. You know what I'm saying? Same with him. When you first meet him, he ain't gonna, he might strike your ass, but you ain't gonna feel the effects till a little bit down the road. All right. It says, verse 5, which will not hearken unto the voice of the charmers, charming never so wisely. All right. And our people especially, they just don't learn just by looking at his history. But it says, break their teeth, O Most High, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Yahweh. All right. Let them melt away as the water which run continually when he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows. Let them be cut in pieces. Talking about the so-called white man's destruction. All right. Thermonuclear missiles. All right. And we're going to read about it right here. You know what I'm saying? The actual effects of that. As a snail which melted, let every one of them pass away like the untimely birth of a woman, that they might not see the sun, like a woman with a miscarriage, let them go ahead and pass away before they even be born. It says, before your pots can be filled with thorns, he shall be. Salakia. Verse 9, before your pots can fill the thorns, he shall take them away as with a whirlwind, both living and with his wrath. The righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked, so that a man shall say, verily, there is a reward for the righteous. Verily, he is a power that judges the earth. All right. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? That's what we're patiently waiting on, and the faith that we have that these things are going to come to pass. The so-called white man going to be utterly destroyed. He going to be whitewashed out of history. All right. He going to be cleansed from the face of the earth, for all these atrocities that he did. All right. Now let me jump to, grab a couple more precepts and I'll close out so it's not too long. This is Job chapter 9, verse 24. All right. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the face of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. And we always, reference this talking about, Yahweh Shah, the prophets, the saints, and things like that, so on and so forth, which that's true. You can just type into Google Russian icons. You can see those images before they ain't even whitewashed. They still those same colors over there. You can look up images of the Black Madonna and the Pope currently to this day bowing down to black images over there instead of the so-called white men that we see and have over here. But not just that, they trying to delete and whitewash history to erase all the atrocities out of history, and create some new kind of history where we was all together in a melting pot and we all just one people, There ain't no such thing as the children of Israel. We all just one people. We so-called humankind, which is this new technological way that Esau trying to have to be everybody's God, But it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, the so-called white man. He covered the face of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. So who is all this history so-called being rewritten to either wash away their wickedness, to cover up for? It's the so-called white man, nobody else. It's not the Chinese history that's getting erased. They shit go back to more than 2,000 years, well documented. It ain't been changed up or nothing whitewashed like that, to make it seem like they so much better and dominated the whole world, created every damn thing, They tell you a civilization started with the Grecians. That's a bold-faced lie. You had the Egyptians far beyond before that, But nevertheless, that's the so-called white man's history, all right? And that's the things that he teach. He's speaking lies from birth, basically, Speaking lies from when the time he born, Let me grab from here. Let me see. I'm gonna grab some in First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 44, I think. Hang on. I don't want to read all of this. I'm gonna go back up to the top just to get the point. This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus, which is a so-called white man, the Edomite, all right, wrote to his whole kingdom that they should all be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed to the commandment of the king. Yea, many of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. All right, let me jump down. Verse 49. To the end that they might forget the laws and change all the ordinances. All right, so, just briefly touching on that, this is an instance where the so-called white man was trying to change up history, change up, in this scenario, they getting rid of the scriptures, basically. They're trying to get rid of that and basically rewrite their own history, come up with what we have today, basically Christianity. They're coming up with their own man-made shit, Now I'm gonna jump over to First Maccabees 3:48, I think it is. Yeah, First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48, it says, "And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images." All right, so here's another account of how they tried to so-called whitewash history, like Leonardo da Vinci and what's that other bastard's name? Da Vinci and damn it, I can't even think of the other dude's name now. But nevertheless, you know who I'm talking about. Those two guys who Michelangelo. Them guys who painted up all that shit, whitewashed all the history, That's basically what they was doing. They started, like I said, you can look up Russian icons and Google images, You can see all these images, and some of those images, you actually see them repainting and lighting those images up. So if they doing that over the scriptures, which is a detailed history book, like we read now, we reading a history of them doing this, and this is from a book that they took out of the Bible to erase their history of them doing this. All right, so it's just going back to back to back, hitting the point on the head. The so-called white man, this is his MO. He keep doing this. He trying to eradicate us, going back to Psalms 83. All right. Real quick, let me think of okay, I'll probably read these last two and we'll be out. This is I read in Ezekiel 36 first. Ezekiel 36:1. Oh, Slakia. Ezekiel 36 verse 1. No, not verse 1. Verse 2, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh power, because let me go up to verse 1. Also, son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith Yahweh power, because the enemy," the so-called white man, all right, going back to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64 on down, it says, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh power, because the enemy has said against you." All right, also going to Psalms 83. "Aha, even the ancient high places are in our possessions." All right. It says, "Therefore prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh power, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers and the infamy of many people." So if you was to think about that being played out, you know what I'm saying? What do you think is going on? They took you away to be a reproach and a byword and a proverb to these people, man. They saying whatever they want to say about you, And going back up, it says, "Because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are in our possession." And what do you think they did? They didn't sit there and say, look, all this magnificent Marvel stuff, look at the power of the Most High. This is all belong to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but we got them in slavery. Nah, they opened up the book of the law and sought to paint the likeness of their own images, whitewashing history, making it seem like it's them, not us. All right, the same thing they've been doing in all of history. All right, now jumping over to reiterate the same point here. This Psalm 79:1. And we'll close out with this one. It says, a psalm of Asaph. "O Yahweh, the heathen are coming to thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled, and laid Jerusalem on heaps." All right. It says, I'm gonna just read down to verse 4. "The dead bodies of thy servant have they given to be meat unto the fowls of heaven, the flesh of the saints unto the beasts of the earth. Their blood have they shed like the water round about Jerusalem, and there is none to bury them. We are become a reproach to our neighbors, as scorn and a derision to them that are round about us." All right. And so that's basically what's been going on. They came in and took our inheritance and laid everything in the waste, and came and how they say Jerusalem was trodden under the foot of the Gentiles. You know what I'm saying? They came over in there and slaughtered all of our stuff. Let me try to grab one more precept. Slakia. This is Deuteronomy 28:37. "Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee." All right. And so, You just think about that. All of the different things that you done built and created throughout the whole earth, all the world wonders and the magnificent things you've done and all the contributions you did to the so-called planet as far as what they have now. America being the greatest nation on the planet Earth, the pyramids being built, people marveling over that, and so on and so forth. All these different great things you done did, built up basically all the crazy shit you see in Europe as well, But after all these different things you looked at as niggas and spics and shit like that, illegal aliens that they need to keep out, you become a byword and a proverb, to all these people, because why? They whitewashing your history, saying you just savages and you just niggas hanging from trees and things like that, swinging from trees. We had to civilize you people, y'all ain't never really made no contributions to the planet Earth, you don't have no history, you never contributed to nothing. The so-called white man gave you everything you did, But, one more, we're gonna close out with this, I promise. I like this verse too. Just to go back into our history, it says, Deuteronomy 32:7 says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations, and ask thy fathers, and he will show thee, and the elders, and they will tell thee. All right, and going back into just history, what happened in the past, But if you whitewash all that, then a lot of people start believing that everybody was all created equal, we all the same, and so on and so forth. They don't want to hear about Israel. Further cutting off Israel from being a nation, all right? But with that, we're going to go ahead and close out. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. With that, we're going to go ahead and say, Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone and taught me this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, I can pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Stay strong. Shalom.